This thing's actually working.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll
Looks like we have an
refresh.
excellent connection. What was I talking about, by the way? Does anybody like know like
We were talking about the
the
posters of
poster?
Visions. I'm pretty
Oh,
sure.
oh, I was in the middle of saying, I think the posters are just kind of like mediocre and
Yeah.
like a 7 out of 10, and then all of a sudden you were frozen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. And we also got the Lego Star Wars Terrifying Tales trailer. This thing's coming out in just a couple weeks on October 1st to set the mood for Halloween. Did you guys get a chance to check out this trailer?
I looked at it briefly. Again, you guys know my thoughts on the whole Lego games and all the stuff going on with that. However, I did glance at the trailer. I mean, it's definitely a cute perspective of it, and I know Chris, you talked about it in the chat a little bit about like the what if feel of it. So I can definitely see like what if Star Wars be with Marvel what they're doing with their what if series. Maybe this is their alternative or their reaction to Marvel's what if, and what this is what Star Wars could be like with their what if.
Yeah, so I think the Lego franchise is a great way to do what ifs because it's not live action, obviously that would be too costly, but you got Legos which are already known to kind of break the rules when it comes to like being on the official timeline with like the jokes and stuff. So it's like, yeah, they could add a lot more to like a lot more stories, right? We got the holiday special. We were talking about annualizing certain Star Wars holiday things. Like they could do the holiday special, they could do the Terrifying Tales every single year because we get a good look at like what this will entail. It's like, okay, Poe Dameron's going to Mustafar, he's going to Vader's castle, and he's getting a couple cool like ghost stories that he's bringing up. So yeah, this would be awesome because people have been enjoying What If for the most part. I believe I've been enjoying the heck out of them. There's 5 episodes in, and they're just standalone stories that just at least are standalone right now that just go off the deep end in a lot of cases. What are your thoughts on this, Ben? The whole What If Star Wars
Yeah,
for Lego?
I I would say I think. Well, to me, I always can bring up disagreeing points. I kind of disagree that they don't have a budget to do it because I honestly think about it this way: if you put in how much is, let's say Mando costs like 100 million, like even if you do half that, if you do half that, say 50, 60 million, do like a 4 episode, 5 episode thing, like do it as a tester, do a what if live action little series, and you don't even they could do it in ways, you could kind of work around even potentially hiring many of the actors back, because you could maybe even do like side stories that are like, where you have characters talking about certain characters or something, like, maybe like bringing up how like Luke Skywalker joined Darth Vader, blah 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 blah, and like you see the ramifications of it. Like you could do what if stories like that. I feel like you could do a live action series with it, because at the end of the day, right now with the popularity of Marvel's What If, I think you could capitalize on it in the next couple, 2, 3 years, because people are intrigued by like the whole what if idea, because what if this happened, what if that happened, and hey, if you want to do it more of a higher budget, just give us like a mini, forget the series, just do like a mini 45-minute type of one-off episode of a show, like like recreate the moment on Empire Strikes Back, when Luke gets his hand chopped, and have him join Vader, and like get a little kind of 20-minute aftermath of that, or even recreate the moment of the throne room battle between Luke and Vader and Palpatine, and have Luke kill Vader and join Palpatine. Like do anything like that, or even heck, recreate some of the moments from the prequels. Like what if you do a whole thing of like Hayden and Ewan, they're still young right now. Why not recreate the moment on Mustafar? As we all have played the old Revenge of the Sith video game,
Yeah.
Have Anakin take out Obi-Wan. Do something like that. Like I feel like you could potentially do it. Just sink in whatever money it would be into an hour, 45 minutes to an hour long one-off what if type episode, and just to test the waters. I think it could really work in Star Wars. But like in Lego form, it's unlimited possibilities because it's, obviously a much lower budget than a live action film or live action series would be. And it gives you a lot of different, more comedic elements than you could in a live action sense. Because, if we do a live action one off, what if type thing, there's no way they're doing comedy like Lego. So I really think the Lego, there's pros and cons. Legos, you can do comedy. Live action is live action. So like, I feel like you can go a bunch of different ways with it.
Yeah, I just feel like with live action, it's too much on like a pedestal where people would just get confused like all hell. They'd be like, wait, is this what really happened? Like, there's the actors. Like, I mean, at least with Lego, clearly like, okay, this is more a lighthearted approach. Like, it's animated. We can understand that this is a separate thing where it might be harder for people to like separate if it's like two live action storylines going on when one isn't really like in the timeline, the other one is like continuity wise.
Well, I would say, or even with that, like even just bridge the gap. Don't do live action, or don't even do Lego. Just do a what if animated series. I mean, we have the model for Rebels and Clone Wars. Like, just do something along those lines. You could easily bring back like James Arnold Taylor to play Obi-Wan, and all that crew from the Clone Wars series. And I mean, a lot of them are still doing Star Wars audio projects right now. So why not bring some of them back? And they could do like a what if series in I guess whatever the animation style Rebels would be, what, 2D animation or 3D animation, I guess.
Because
maybe something along those lines.
Yeah, we didn't even really mention the what if scenario that's actually playing in the trailer itself, with Luke actually being on Tatooine and actually joining the flight academy and flying a TIE fighter. I think that's a really good start for like a what if series. Like you start with the main character. What happens essentially if Luke becomes evil? Like,
yep,
that's essentially what they're doing. So I just like that they went all for it on the first one, sort of thing. Like, this is what you can expect, and maybe this won't be the last time we do this kind of thing.
Oh yeah, I think it has potential. Again, it just a lot of that falls on just execution and how they do it and everything. Because at the end of the day, whether it be Lego or whatever, story is like what drives everything. And even the Lego storylines, some of them may be simple and everything, but they do have a meaning, and it just all falls on how they execute it. Like, look, the Lego Holiday Special, that was done really well in my opinion, and I think it was really well received for the most part from what I've seen. So like, you have things like that, but then you have other things like the what's the other Lego series? The Freemaker Adventures.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the Freemaker Adventures are fine for all viewing audiences, and some of them are like, man, this is definitely for a younger audience. Like, but I feel like the Holiday Special was kind of in between, where it was good for kids, but it was also nice because they had some like more meta jokes like adults could absorb. Like where Palpatine says Starkiller Base is like a stupid name, like who would call it that? Like, little moments like that are funny, and they're more, I feel like, meta for like us as fans. Like, oh, they're poking fun at some of their critiques they had of the sequel trilogy. So I thought the little moments like the Holiday Special did a really good job of blending both audiences.
Yeah, for sure. I do want to shout out something really cool about one of the stories, and it is actually the Ren story, which we knew we were getting Christian Slater playing Ren, but to actually see it playing out on the screen as opposed to like in the comic book that Charles Soule wrote, I'm super down, because it's got like all the Knights of Ren. They're on swoop bikes, and it's like there's Ben Solo, a young naive Ben Solo on the back of the bike, and it's like, wow, the fact they're actually bringing like this comic book miniseries to the screen for somebody that just gets invested in all that publishing. I'm just so hyped for it.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's payoff. It's what you want. Like, I mean, we'll get into it in some of my critiques of, like, to me, like, quote unquote canon. Like, it's good to see like they're actually being payoff. Like, even though it's in Lego form, they're like acknowledging it, like, right. Things like that. Like, I think That's the most important thing in my opinion. Like they're actually acknowledging their own canon when they're currently having some issues with it, in my opinion. So like it's good to see them like including it in some of their projects.
Because for the longest time, people have been wanting some adaptations to a certain degree of some of the novels, some of the comics in animated form, and this is really our first foray into that. So hopefully, if this is successful enough, if there's enough people speaking out on social media about how much they enjoy this specific part of the Terrifying Tales, maybe that'll send a clear message to Lucasfilm, because they do listen. They do listen to what the fans are saying, whether or not they're able to react fast enough to create content to be able to respond. It might take a while, right? This stuff isn't made
Right.
overnight, but hey, maybe 3-4 years from now, maybe we'll have like a renaissance on Disney Plus where it's like every 6 months they put out a new one. I mean, look at what DC is doing with their animated movies, or they're putting out Injustice pretty soon. They just announced another movie, I think, recently. So it's like they're constantly churning out those animated movies. I would like to see Disney maybe play around with what content they already have, and widen it out to a wider audience than just the people that read the books. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good point, especially about the DC animation universe. Like that's probably their strongest department when it comes to like their movie making or storytelling, because those animation films are so good, so good. So I think if Star Wars wants to do the same thing, I think they need to adapt to how DC has done it.
Definitely. So moving on, we actually inadvertently got our first look at the Star Wars Hunters game that we know got delayed. It was supposed to come out at the end of this year. Supposedly they're having like a tech test that I signed up for certain early testers like later on this year. But they did have somebody slip some stuff out in like a marketing ad or something like that. So we actually got a look at it already. So I mean, I guess this is what we kind of could have expected from the trailer. It does look like it's your general like Fortnite kind of vibed game where it's you choose these specific colorful characters and you battle out. We don't have any like gameplay of it, but we have or gameplay footage of it playing, but we do have several screenshots. So yeah, it looks like there's very colorful characters here. There's some kind of droid that's wielding a lightsaber, it looks like. And then, you have like a Jawa pair that are standing on each other's shoulders. You got like a stormtrooper with a rocket launcher, some kind of mercenary. It looks like you can get different gun skins for your blasters, whatever weapon your character uses. So, and it's all mobile. So it looks like there's like 3 or 4 different inputs you could have with different weapons. So, I'm not like, this is definitely not like a AAA game by any stretch of the imagination. But I think it's probably going to be better than the Lego game that we were talking about last week. That
Mhm.
was like the little guys running around. Um, this might be one of those games that I play for like a day or two, and then I'll probably just delete it, kind of thing. Hopefully it's not. I mean, I hope it's good, but like if it doesn't have a story attached to it, and I just don't think it probably will with the way things I'm getting, the vibe I'm getting here, then I don't know how long a game like this is going to really entertain me, especially considering it's only on mobile. Like I do most of my, like 99% of my gaming will always be on like the big screen I'm looking at right now. So to look at like a little Nintendo Switch screen or something,
All right.
I'd prefer not to do that. So yeah, a little
Yeah.
disappointed, but I mean, I don't know what I was actually expecting just from looking at it.
Well, to me, it's just like I see that, and then like as you said, like kind of a Fortnite feel or whatever. My thing with it is why why make it for mobile? Like, don't get me wrong, everybody has cell phones. 99% of people have smartphones these days. So like, why not? Like, sure, it makes sense. You can put it out on multiple, all these Android and Apple devices and Nintendo Switches and all this stuff. But why not make it for like everything? Like, especially consoles, where consoles and PCs where, the majority of gamers are, I would assume. Like, I feel like it's a bigger audience, especially with the way like a lot of younger kids, like I feel like every younger kid I know plays Fortnite.
Mm-hmm.
So, why don't you make this game for like consoles, where kids can play Fortnite, instead of Fortnite, they're like, oh, let's play the Star Wars game. Let's play Star Wars Hunters, or, and that's even like, just talking more meta about Star Wars. Like, why is there not a Star Wars Fortnite game yet? Like, that's my question. Like, there should be. Like, I just think, I think it's a big like this game isn't a misstep. Like, it's a misstep opportunity of where they're putting it at specifically, but also I think it's just an overall. Again, we've talked so many we've all of us have had so many critiques about Star Wars gaming, under the Disney umbrella. Like, why? To me, I feel like you're just lacking awareness. Like, why aren't you putting out a Fortnite type game that could just, be worldwide reaching? Like, I don't know. I just feel like this game's just it's going to be one of those games that falls by the wayside. Soon, people might play it for a couple days, and then you might have like the niche like community that plays it, but for the overall audience, especially when it comes to mobile, look, like, I feel like the most dominant game is going to be Pokemon Go for like the foreseeable future, just because Pokemon's as big of an IP almost as Star Wars is. So like, I don't see Star Wars Hunters competing with that personally.
Yeah, I mean, the to answer a question about like why haven't they made anything, the answer to that is they were under EA, and simply EA
Mm,
doesn't, they don't have the
that's
resources or the
true.
studios to devote the time and the money to making that game. But now they can, because now, as we see, and we'll talk in like another minute, about the other studios that are actually being in charge of games now with Lucasfilm Games, they have opened up to any developer, not just underneath EA, but anybody out there can start working on a Star Wars game. So hey, maybe they're working on that right now. It's just everybody's hands were tied up until like the last 6 months. They were able to, the floodgates have opened now, and now everybody's like getting some of that honey that Lucasfilm Games is putting out. So again,
Oh yeah.
we're not decrying this game, and we're not going to like speak doom and gloom, because we've literally not seen the game in motion yet. We're just giving our first impressions on, based upon what we've seen from screenshots and based upon speculation on other Star Wars mobile games, and just the mobile game space in general. So until we get our hands on this game, that's to be determined. And if the gameplay is really really good, that's like the main thing that
Right.
matters, right? If the controls are really good, people are having a great time, then it could last for 3 years. I mean, who knows?
Oh, 100%. I think the big problem with just like games in general is it's so hard to get a grasp until we actually see gameplay footage. Because I mean, as everyone on this podcast knows, like, I play Madden. Look at the Madden promo videos compared to Madden gameplay. I don't care if it's next gen, current gen, PC, whatever. Two totally different products. Like,
Facts.
the promos look like real life, and or I guess next gen looks like an enhanced version of like Madden '08. Like,
Yep.
so until we see actual gameplay of this game, I'm not going to try to like judge it too harshly. Just because we haven't seen the actual gameplay, like, because I'm sure we'll get some type of a cinematic trailer or something, like, as we get closer to it.
Yeah.
But again, I won't believe it till I see an actual gameplay. Like, to me, when it comes to a lot of these games too, even when the company releases the gameplay footage, I'm kind of skeptical on it until I feel like the best litmus test is when it comes out, let it sit for a couple days, go to YouTube
Yeah.
or whatever review site you look at reviews nowadays, and look up actual like people playing the game to see what they're doing. Like, to me, that's the best way to get a vibe on the actual gameplay of the game versus what a company releases, because they're trying to sell you a product.
Yeah, see, here's the thing, right? Is because Cyberpunk 2077 was that game for me that said, okay, the developers are showing the stuff they want to show us. And the fact
Hmm.
that that game turned out the way it is, and literally, I put out a post like, after watching the awesome Matrix Resurrection trailer, I was like, I want to go back and play Cyberpunk. And I realized, oh, Cyberpunk 9 months later is still not fixed to the point where I want to play it yet. So that's just a sad
Yeah.
fact of reality.
Look, I'm okay. Maybe I'm gonna be the Debbie Downer here on this particular segment, but ever since Lucasfilm was taken over by Disney, the gaming section has been trash.
Yep.
Look, and people say, "Oh, Milton, you're just so negative," blah blah blah, which is fine. I'll take it, but I'm right, because now there's been some hits here or there, a lot of misses. Okay, All I got to do is say the first Battlefront game, and everyone knows how those microtransactions were ridiculous. And didn't they do that in the second game where they like got rid of them or something?
Yeah, they
It
did.
was
Then they patched it and got rid of
yeah,
them.
they patched it up or whatever, and it's like, wait a minute. Now, Jedi Fallen Order has been that one game thus far that people has universally liked since. Is it Frostbite or whatever? What is it? Is it EA or Frostbite that has the Star Wars games now?
Well, EA, but the EA has a proprietary game engine, kind of like Unreal Engine or whatever. Their engine is called
that's what it is.
Frostbite. So like the Frostbite
Right.
engine is the one that has
So like
problems. Yeah.
ever since those companies has been working on these games, they haven't been that great. It's been the weakest component of Disney Star Wars, and it's like I trust nothing when it comes to their games. That's just until right. You said it, until it comes out, and I'm looking at reviews, and people are like, "Oh, this game's fire." Like I waited until Jedi Fallen Order came out before I heard like the word of mouth, and you guys are telling me get the game, Milton. You're gonna like it. My buddy, who I told you text me at 10 o'clock at night, was like, "I just thought Vader was dope."
Yeah.
And I'm probably gonna get it now. But I wasn't getting it day one. I was like, "There's no way." I lost faith in this game. So getting back to the Hunters game and mobile and stuff, it's like, why would you not release it to all platforms? Like, why can't you give us a game that we're going to universally love? Give us again, and we'll get to the game that Chris is hype about, which is Knights of the Old Republic. I'm actually hopeful for that game, but I don't trust them until it comes out. Until I get it from you guys. If you say, "Hey, Milton, you're gonna love this game, get it," great. But I'm not touching it until you guys play it. Facts.
Well, Milton, here's the thing. To me, always throwing sports references, but you can't like under the Star Wars gaming so far. If you include like the app games, the Battlefront games, like all their, I would say, failed games. Like if you think about it, like Jedi Fallen Order is like their only like Super Bowl win, if you would. Yeah. Like other than that, they're like 1-5 or 1-4. Like you can't make one good game out of 4 or 5 or 6. Like you cannot do that, especially with such a big property.
Right.
And I just think...
I remember, Ben. I remember when I bought the first Battlefront, dude, because this is how so like not confident I was in it, because I kept hearing about that. I'm like, oh, I'll still get it. I told the guy at GameStop, I said, if I don't like this game, I'm bringing it back tomorrow and I'm getting my whole money back. He's like, oh, okay, we'll see. Hated that game that night, brought it back the next day, got my $60 back fast. I was like, this game is trash.
Well, here's the thing. I'll be totally honest with you. That was my first impression, like playing that game. I was like, what is this? There's no campaign. There's like, what is this? So like that game, I thought it was horrible. And then I'll be honest, the only reason I got the second game, like, of course, there was a lot, the campaign got advertised, blah, 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 blah. But the only reason I actually got it is like, my friend Alex, who's always here in the chat, he got it. And it was like right around, I don't know, was it Rogue One that was coming out or Last Jedi? Like, it was basically, I bought it because it was like Star Wars season. So it was like, let me just buy this to like, join the Star Wars community and play. But I'll be 100% honest. If that game was getting released in like May that year, I would have not bought it. It was literally just because Star Wars was coming out, and that was, it was hype. So I was like, cool, I'll buy it.
And I will say, because Battlefront 2, like I actually wound up buying it like a couple months later because of the story mode. I'm thinking, oh, they got the campaign, and I heard the story actually wasn't bad. And I actually played like halfway through the game, and I liked the story, but the game kind of got just boring to me quick. But I mean, even that though, it was a slight improvement from the first for sure. But like I said, I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer here, because I know we're going to talk about the Knights of the Old Republic, which is fire. But like I said, I just think once you guys play that, especially you, Chris, because I know you're going to be on it day one. If you tell me Milton is worth the money or it's worth getting it, I'll get it, but I'll wait a couple weeks until I actually see you guys play through it and like, all right, this is what I'm looking for, blah, blah, blah. Because again, they've hurt my heart when it comes to Star Wars games. I'm just saying, like, they've been so not good. I'm used to The Force Unleashed. I'm used to Rogue Squadron. I'm used to Super Star Wars and Super Nintendo. Like, give me all my goodies, okay? Bring all LucasArts need to come back. That's the thing.
Well, my thing to throw out there to both of you guys as well to think about is, will this or the open world game come out first? And if the open world game comes out first, is that going to, like, sure, Knights of the Old Republic is huge, but what if the open world game is this huge, amazing game? Everybody, it's the new next big Fortnite thing, or, it's the new next big game for everybody to play. Like, it makes me wonder if the open world game does come out, will it overshadow Knights of the Old Republic?
It depends on the genre. I don't think it can, because I think it's going to be a completely different game. I think the open world game is going to be more like something like maybe like Grand Theft Auto or Red Dead Redemption, where you're going to be more of an action adventure. They straight up said, and we're going to just transition right now into Knights of the Republic. I've been waiting to talk about this damn game through 2 power outages here. So here we go. Hopefully the power doesn't go out. So yes, just gonna go right into it. So Knights of the Republic Remake. I'll just kind of, and I put a separate video out about this, the Knights of the Republic Remake hype, and I'll walk through this again. So I was at work, and I was like, you know what, I got my own break. I know this PlayStation event is about to go on, so let me tune in at least for a few minutes. And I'm an Xbox player, first off. I'm just like, sometimes they reveal some cool stuff that might be like a third-party game. Whatever, maybe they'll reveal it. So anyway, I see the Lucasfilm Games logo pop up, and I'm just like instantly just like sit up, like, what? And then as soon as the voiceover starts, I already know what it was gonna be. And I just started like laughing and kind of like going like like crazy noises coming out of my mouth because I can't control myself for the excitement that was about to happen. And of course Revan goes on screen. I'm like, yep, they're actually doing it. They're actually freaking doing it. Like and the craziest part was I was in limbo for a freaking like almost an hour, because it said, designed for the PlayStation 5, and I'm over here freaking out saying, wait a minute, PlayStation 5, I have an Xbox Series S, and I'm not really a Sony gamer. It's not that I don't like Sony. I just prefer to only have one console, because that's the only time a game like I have with gaming. I can't have like multiple consoles, whatever. I have my PC, so I'm like, oh, okay. So then after the whole thing settled, they're like, it's launching exclusively on the PlayStation 5 with the PC. So I got lucky there. But yeah, I'm really excited because they had the voiceover. It's actually Jennifer Hale, who actually plays Bastila Shan 20 years prior in the original Knights of the Republic, is coming back to reprise her role. And in the article on StarWars.com, they also announced the other some other characters are going to come, or other cast is going to come back. They don't know who it is yet. But to kind of just run down through all the info that I know right now, we can kind of discuss. It is being developed not by BioWare. It's being developed by Aspyr, and that name might sound familiar to those that have played some of the remasters of the Star Wars games, like Jedi Knight 2, Outcast. Knights of the Republic has also been remastered on mobile. Like all these old games, like Star Wars Racer, like all these games have already been like reestablished on the current platforms to be played. So Aspyr was an interesting choice, because I'm sitting here thinking, wait a minute, these guys have absolutely no idea when it comes to creating a game from the ground up, like a AAA game. Like, it kind of got me worried. Like, I'm like, oh, okay, this is not the developer I think. I would think they would have BioWare doing their own game franchise they made 20 years ago, But as reading this article, I got more and more confident that they're going to pull this game off, because first off, they're stressing this is made from the ground up. This isn't just like a texture remap of them just having, 4K different polygons and whatnot, and resolution textures. They are actually building this game from the ground up. So I'm thinking, if you guys out there are familiar with some of the current remakes, like you have Resident Evil Remake, Resident Evil 2 Remake, Final Fantasy 7 Remake, there are
Halo.
Well, nah, Halo hasn't really been remade. That's more of a remaster, because it's just like
remaster,
resolution.
I guess.
Yeah. So remake is literally when they take the gameplay engine and they just like axe it out, and they literally start like, it's almost like making a brand new game from the ground up.
Oh, okay.
They're literally remaking Knights of the Republic, brand new game engine, everything. Cause it's got to be, because the game came out 20 years ago, and this is next gen hardware. The interesting thing though is it's being also co-produced by PlayStation Interactive, or PlayStation Entertainment Interactive, which is like the first party studio of PlayStation, which is why it's tied exclusively to PlayStation at launch. But it says that terminology, the way they explain it means it's going to come to Xbox eventually. They don't say Xbox in the press release, but when it says PlayStation 5 exclusive at launch, what other platform is there out there besides PlayStation, Xbox? So those of you that are worrying, don't, if you feel like you can wait out, it might be like 6 months to a year. I mean, honestly, we were supposed to get Final Fantasy VII Remake, and that's been over a year, and we still haven't gotten it because it's exclusive on PlayStation. So who knows? You might want to just start finding parts for a PC or saving up for a PlayStation 5 if you really want to play it on day one. But getting back to just the general information about the studio of Asper and why it is a really good thing of what they're doing. They're literally pulling in the veterans from the original Knights of the Republic game. They're pulling in different developers from high-class studios that worked on Demon Souls, that worked on Ghost of Tsushima, that worked on Dragon Age Inquisition. These are all huge AAA games that have been some of the crown jewels of the last generation of gaming. I mean, Demon Souls is a remake in itself, so you're already going to have these developers that are used to working in that capacity. And Demon Souls and Ghost of Tsushima have very much like a Dark Souls-y kind of like more Jedi Fallen Order type combat, I would say. And if you guys are familiar with the old school Knights of the Republic, it was like that turn-based, like it looked like it was real time, but you were actually queuing up your attacks. So you could like do like 3 or 4 attacks in a row and let it play out that way. So I think that engine is gone by, and I'll let you guys speak in just a minute here because I'm regurgitating a ton of information because I'm super excited. But like when you talk about remaking a Star Wars game for a specific reason, you want to modernize the game. That's what they were talking about in the article. You want to modernize the game so that way both the old people, not the old people, but the people from the past that have played the previous game. Yeah, I just called this all old. That's fine. The people that have played it,
still in my 20s,
2003. Have played it back then are going to be able to play it now and still get a good sense of what it is. But then the people that are new players are going to be like, oh, this feels a lot like the current game. So the combat was the thing to me that would probably be the most dated in that game. If you go to play it now, it's like, wait, what kind of combat system is this? But now you'll, also getting in Dragon Age Inquisition, which I think it was a BioWare game. I love that game. I spent over 100 hours in that game. I freaking loved it. That game deals with companion characters just like Knights of the Republic does. So you're going to have those developers that are used to working in that capacity. So it's basically like, don't get worried that this studio has never worked on like a AAA game because they've brought in like as much help as they possibly need to like get this thing off the ground. I'm going to shut up for a few minutes and throw it to you guys. I'll throw it over to Ben. What was your initial thoughts on this Knights of the Republic remake?
Well, first of all, I was totally surprised because I didn't think it was going to happen. I guess it just wasn't on my radar really, because I figured their kind of KOTOR remake-ish type thing was going to end up being I feel like the open world game was going to kind of be the same slot as that. So it's really cool the fact that we're getting both of those. So I was really surprised in that regard. I'm super excited about it, of course, because I played the originals. Like it was those games, classics. Like any Star Wars fan out there who wants to go back to play an old game, like play that one. Like sure, as Chris noted, the combat system may be outdated based on today's modern like high flying standards for video games, but hey, it's an amazing story. So that's something to keep in mind, and I feel like they're going to do it justice for this one. Also, another reason I feel like they're going to do it justice is just from the pure pressure, because you're bringing back Knights of the Old Republic. That's literally like Nintendo saying, hey, we're going to do some type of a remake of the classic Mario game. Or like, hey, or Halo's saying, hey, we're going to remake the original Halo 1, 2, 3. Like, we're going to remake them and from the ground up. Like, it's a lot of pressure. So I feel like they're going to have a lot of pressure on them to be able to, to succeed, just because everybody's going to be watching. Because you guys know how Star Wars fans get. If this game comes out and it doesn't meet like the story, because everybody still holds the story in such high regard. Like that story is like up there even in all of the movies, and like, you know, it's probably like the top 5 pure stories in Star Wars. So the thing is, if the story isn't executed on, everyone, you know, Star Wars fans are going to go, oh, look, they tried to remake it to do a grab for money. You know, it's still not as good as the old thing. Like, because I mean, look what we've dealt with the sequel trilogy, you know. So my thing is, they have a lot of pressure, and I feel like there's a good chance they'll succeed just because, you know, they have a lot of the original people on working on the game. Like, I feel like that's good. And in general, like, you know, Mike, I've had a lot of critiques of Star Wars lately, but I feel like they are starting to listen to the fans, like to what the fans are interested in. Like, sure, you don't have to follow everything the fans say, but I feel like they are starting to finally listen. And, you know, I mentioned it even on last week's podcast, Star Wars is finally listening to the fans. So I think with that, I think this KOTOR game has a really good chance to be a success.
Yeah, what about you, Milton? What are your thoughts on them remaking one of the best, in my opinion, one of the best video games ever made? Not just best Star Wars game. This thing is up there with,
Right.
with some of the best.
Yeah, I remember playing the original one back on regular Xbox when it came out.
Yep.
Back I forget what year it was, but I remember we had it for like a couple months, and I didn't know it was very intimidating, the original game, when you first look at it. But then once I played it, I really fell in love with it, and we loved it as my brothers and I grew up playing that game. As for the remake, and I was thinking about this last night after I saw the video on YouTube. I said there are 3 games that will make me get a PS5. One will be the new Spider-Man 2 that's coming out, which looks
Yeah.
fire. Like that trailer, and because
Oh,
I love
man.
the first Spider-Man on PS4. The NCAA football, when they finally make that in a couple years, that'll be the second game for PS5 I
Yep.
want to get. That will force me to get that console, and hopefully this game will force me to get a PS5 when it comes out. Because just having first of all, that trailer was perfect. The voiceover, first of all, Bastila gets not enough love as a Star Wars character because she's just so dope. But we'll get to that in a minute. But like just that voiceover, and then Revan walks out, that silhouette and that saber and that helmet, bro.
Oh.
My God, like I'm like, we need him in a movie. I know technically we
Yep.
kind of got the Kylo Ren helmet that mimicked it a little bit, but no, we need him as a live action character because Revan is so off the chain. Cannot wait for this game to come out. Like I said earlier, I'm gonna wait until you guys get it. I'm excited that they're bringing the original team back to at least enhance the game, can keep the story consistently, and I'm sure they're gonna tweak the story a little bit. They're gonna have to, but like I said, bring back the original crew that made one of the greatest games ever. And I'm sure these people haven't been sitting in their basement for 20 years. They've probably been working on other games and enhancing their skills as game makers. So it makes sense to bring back that squad. Plus, you got these new heads that are coming in to enhance the game as well. So I'm all about it. Back to Bastila. She needs more love, and I'm hoping in this game she gets a lot more love. Like, she's such a dope character. And for all those weirdos out there that are saying the only reason why people didn't like Rey because she's a female character, that's bull. Because we all love Bastila as a female character because she's fire, okay? Because she kicks a lot of ass, and they developed her perfectly in the games. So I cannot wait to see her come back as a lead character in a Star Wars game that I'm sure I'll probably like. Fingers crossed, but I'm waiting until you guys play it first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, like you said, Milton, like with her character, you know, it's definitely one of the better female Star Wars characters in general. Like, it's right up there with all the other iconic, you know, Star Wars characters, whether it be Leia or you know, now Ahsoka. I guess Ahsoka's up there, like Padme,
Leia,
all those characters, Mara Jade, like all those. See, that's the thing, you know, when it comes to these characters like her. Yeah, Shakti. Like we have, like, fans know it. Like, you know, like I was saying, you know, even in my points, like, you know, if it's fans know if it's a good story. They know if it's a good character. Like that's why Bastila is still talked about 20 years later. Like, she's still brought up in conversations. It's because she's a good character, and people people know,
Yeah.
like it's the whole thing. Like, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. Like, it's a duck. Like, it when you see it if it's a duck. Like,
Mhm.
it if it's a good character. And that's something I feel like like the studios in general, like Star Wars is hopefully starting to hone in on,
Right.
is like, just like, hey, let's make this character and story driven and go from there. Like,
Absolutely. That's the thing. Like, I mean, Chris, you got the shirt on right now. Like, if
Yep.
people can't see it who's watching, like, pull it up real quick, show
yep.
it. Like that character. I mean, my
Well,
God,
that's
dude,
actually
she's
Sutil
such a
Shaw.
badass.
This is actually the Old Republic. Let me turn on
Oh,
my
it's the Old
camera on
Republic
myself.
one. Oh, okay,
The Old
gotcha. Yeah,
Republic,
yeah,
but
that's
that's
the second
Oh,
game
actually
yep.
they made.
like her granddaughter or something.
That's
Like
right. Yeah,
this
Oh,
that's
is
like
yep.
Satil.
Satil
That's
Sean.
Satil.
Yep.
Yeah, that's Satil.
Yep.
Satil's fire,
So.
and that's another one. Satil's fire too. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yep.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
just saying, like Star Wars. I feel like the Knights of the Old Republic, even the Old Republic game, did a really good job, not just with female characters, with all their characters. I mean, because again, we can name a good majority of them there. There's some I'm not super familiar with, but those twins that they had in the Old Republic game was fire.
Oh yeah.
That little girl that became a Sith Lord was pretty dope.
Mm-hmm.
Satil, Bastila, like all those characters are such richness. That's why we are craving again the remake of the game, and we're also craving a movie or a series with the Old Republic characters because we need those people on screen. Now, here's my question for you guys: if they decided to adapt either Knights of the Old Republic or just the Old Republic into a film using Bastila as like the lead character for one of them, which actress would you want to play that character?
Hmm.
I'll let Chris go first on that one.
Oh, that's a good question. I would say the girl that's playing Lara Croft in Tomb Raider. I think her name's Melissa
Oh,
Vikander.
Alicia Vikander.
Or Alicia
Yeah.
Vikander. I think she'd be pretty good as a Bastila. She's got like a lot of the action
Right.
expertise, and I think she could pull it off the voice and everything pretty well.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
she's
that's
the
a
one that
good
comes
choice.
off of for me at least.
Yeah, I would have to say, just looking at a picture of her, man, that's actually like a perfect casting, Chris. Like,
That is a good
and the
one
thing
too.
is, the thing is with her, Alicia Vikander. I mean, she's an Oscar nominated actress. Like, for anybody who hasn't seen Ex Machina is an amazing movie. And
Great,
hey,
great movie.
another Star Wars connection. Oscar Isaac's in there.
Wait,
So,
and the other guy.
And
Oh yeah, your boy
Hux.
Hux. Hux is in it
Hux,
too.
yeah, General Hux is in there.
Yeah.
Like, he's the other main character. Like, so maybe let's just add the other lead, Alicia Vikander, to the Star Wars universe as Bastila. Like, she's a great actress. Like, hey, there we go. Yeah, like I feel like she would be a good one. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of women like we were overlooking or not realizing, but I feel like that's a great casting. And again, I think though personally for me, for the Knights of the Old Republic, I don't think it can be a movie. I think the way to do
no.
it justice, like,
Right.
I know it's so cliche to compare it to Game of Thrones, but they need to make it like Game of Thrones. Like, make it serious, make it dark and gritty, and like, you could do a Knights of the Old Republic series. Like, Game of Thrones usually was what, like 10 episodes, 12 episodes. Like, do a 12 episode series, Knights of the Old Republic, and think about it. Like, if that show would kick off, that could easily be the biggest show in the world, because initially at first, like Game of Thrones, when it came out, people were unsure. Like people thought it was going to be a big hit, but they weren't expecting it to be the greatest show like in the world. So like, and again, that all falls back to like our points starting this conversation. It all falls on storytelling. Like, if they would do a live action 10 episode series like this at KOTOR, if you nail the story, like, they could boom, like we could have like a 6-season Knights of the Old Republic show, and it would be great.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, I agree. If I had to cast it, I have two actresses. One for both Satil and Bastila, and I'm going to use Alicia Vikander as Satil because she'll be the granddaughter later. I want Bastila to be played by your girl Kate Beckinsale from Underworld.
Oh yeah, I can see
Ooh, that
that.
would be really good.
Because she's look, we've seen her in the Underworld series. Are those movies great when it comes to storytelling? Not really, but they're great when it comes to werewolves and killing and vampires. I love it. Like they're like guilty pleasures of mine. Um, but I like to see Kate Beckinsale play the Bastila character for, let's say, for like 4 seasons of that, and then like take like a 2-year hiatus break, bring in Alicia Vikander to play the granddaughter and tell the rest of that story of like, okay, the second part of the Old Republic and how it leads into, all the other storytelling components of it. Those would be my two actresses to play those two characters.
That
Like,
makes a
and then
lot of sense. Yeah.
you can't. I mean, you can go. Alicia Vikander is a perfect choice for Chris. That was a great pick for that one for
I'm
sure.
usually terrible at just coming off the spot on the spot like that when it comes to picking characters. I mean, picked on the
Yeah.
spot.
I mean, I mean, first of all, they both got the look. I mean, and they're both physically active when it comes to like how they train. I mean, I have followed them both on Instagram. They're both active when it comes to their training. Kate Beckinsale just did a movie recently that was released on Amazon where she's still like an assassin or something.
Hmm.
Like that's kind of dope. You know what other actress I would pick to play Bastila would be Charlize Theron.
Ooh, that's
Oh
a good one.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because especially
Mad
if you made her hair
Max.
dark, kind of like what's the movie she did? Oh my God, what's
The
the one she
James
did?
Bond spinoff,
The Atomic
like the
Blonde
James,
thing.
yeah, the Atomic Blonde, yeah.
Yes, that's like that physicality and how she was. Like I can see that in that character.
Oh man.
Man.
Out of this article, there's a big reveal here that is kind of earth-shaking with the direction for Lucasfilm in general. And this
Hmm.
game is going to be Legends. They're saying this is, the Legends game. So, on a number of reasons, I'll start off with the first one. I think the number one barrier for ever making a Star Wars RPG, because after 2014, everything that comes out is supposed to be quote unquote canon or one timeline. But when you make a role playing game, an RPG that has several, branching decisions, especially looking at Knights of the Republic, you have different endings and all this kind of thing. Like, how do you actually make that canon if like every player is choosing a different dialogue option and everything else? Like, it would just drive the story group crazy. So why not just make the game Legends and you don't have to deal with any of it? So the
See,
fact that they actually had the foresight into actually just going ahead and pulling a trigger, and we're seeing more of this happening in Star Wars. Like, first of all, with Star Wars Visions we were talking about, that's not all part of the actual timeline there. So, and then you have the book Ronin, which is based off that. So now it's a new Star Wars book that's coming out that's not technically canon, if you will. So now Lucasfilm has kind of backed away from their very rigid um, declaration of everything being canon to like, hey, we're gonna make these storytellers like tell the story that they want to tell, and we'll just let you guys know if it's not like part of the timeline, but it's still just as important from a storytelling perspective as anything that is part of the continuity. So I think this is a big step for Lucasfilm with this game being a huge AAA game, putting all their resources into a game that's not going to really further their continuity necessarily, but still going to appease like the Legends fans, especially that have been like shouting for the rooftop to get more Legends content. So what do you have to say about that, Milton?
Um, I'm not surprised. Like I'm not. Look, let's be real here. Like, do, do, can- honestly, do we honestly think there's going to be canon? Like I think we hope we would have been, but no. Like I think Lucasfilm and Disney, that's going to be a hard task for them to pull off. I think if they're going to try to make it canon, and I think they're probably thinking, listen, if we change the story up to make it fit our narrative for canon, that might upset a lot of fans.
That too.
You know,
Yeah.
and so that's where I'm thinking like let's just give them something that they really love. We'll keep it to the original content for the most part. We might switch it up a little bit with some things, but we have to let them know this is Legends. It's something we want to give you guys. For being such loyal fans. Like that's how I look at it. Trust me, I wish it would be canon. Just like I think Plagueis novel should be canon. But like I said, if they try to fit it into that bubble, they may upset a lot of people. And do they want to risk that? I don't know. So honestly, I'm okay with how they're going to do it. Just because again, I never would have thought we'd have got a remake of this, honestly. So I'll take what I can get.
I think what they might do somehow to spin it is like they'll have a lot of references that they take from this game specifically, based off this game, not off the 2003 version, where they're gonna start picking out little bits and pieces, like, and then they'll canonize the bits and pieces, but they won't actually like canonize the game itself for fear of like messing up with like timelines
Right.
and like all these other things. What do you have anything to say about that, Ben?
Yeah, I have a lot to say about all of this actually. Well, for starters, I think it's good. I echo all the points Milton made. Like, it's great they're making it not canon, just because then you're not bootstrapped on trying to, like, change this or that to fit our canon or whatever. But to me, like, I raised it in our group chat. Like, to me, I think this is a big concern for Star Wars, in my opinion, just because. And to me, I look at Star Wars in a more like critical way in regards to, like, I always joke, like, quote unquote canon, like, what I always say, what is canon? Just because, like, to me, like, I look at Star Wars, and if I wasn't a diehard fan, I would look at Star Wars and go, wait a second, you have Knights of the Old Republic coming out, you have all of these awesome Legends books coming out. But again, if you're a casual like if you're just a Star Wars fan who walks through a bookstore and says, oh, this Thrawn book's coming out, or this Rogue Squadron book's coming out, whatever, like, you'll think that's canon. So, like, to me, Lucasfilm, they're at a point now where they're realizing they're hardcore backpedaling. I mean, they're backpedaling faster than a defensive back getting burnt in football. Like, like they're literally, they're backpedaling so hard on their, their stone cold, this is canon, this is ironclad canon, like, everything from here forward is canon, blah 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 blah. But then over these past few years, we've seen cracks and cracks. Like, look, I mean, in their own series, like Bad Batch, like, in the first 5 minutes of Bad Batch, people are like, wait, whoa, 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 this doesn't match up with the Kanan comic. Like, what's going on here? Like, so, you have so many, like, cracks in canon, and then on top of all of that, they're, like, endorsing not canon. To me, it's like, wait a second. If you're endorsing non-canon material, does that mean your quote unquote canon is not that important? Like, so I look at it like in a critical way like that. It's like, what is actually quote like important as a fan? Because what's really canon? I mean, even look at, like, I mean, in Rebels, like, they casually, like, there's the whole line of, like, there's always truth in Legends, or whatever said, like, and it's true, because they're, like, cherry picking from all these Legends books and things, and then now they're just straight up making a new KOTOR game, and then they're re-releasing all these old Legends books. So to me, I mean, and then heck, look at the Mandoverse. You alluded to it earlier, like at one of our first attempts before the power outage. Like, you alluded to it earlier. Like, the Mandoverse is basically a rough adaptation, or it's looking to be shaping up to a rough adaptation of the Thrawn trilogy. Like, and I think that's the direction it's heading as well. So, like, to me, it just falls in the whole category of what is canon, what is not. Like, you have this Ronin stuff, you have these Legends releases, now you have KOTOR. Like, what's the next thing? I really think we could get to a point where we get to, like, a what if series, or like you had somewhat mentioned in our group chat, Chris, like an alternate timeline type of thing, or something like something along those lines, because I feel like there's a lot of red flags to me, because now they're like, crap, a lot of our canon stuff, like, to me, is it like this? Like, is it like, hey, maybe some of our canon stuff isn't landing with fans, so hey, let's just bring back all this Legend stuff. That's the way to market to the fans. So to me, it's like, what is, I always joke, what is quote unquote canon? Like what does that actually mean? Like, we don't, I feel like we don't even have a definition for that anymore, because they keep going every which direction.
Yeah, I mean, well, here's the thing. I think rather than make it like not important, they're bringing other stories, like they're pushing them up a little higher to like balance out the canon, so to speak. Like, they're basically like, all the stories, if you enjoy them, they're important to you rather than like, oh, that's not like important to anything anymore. Like they're just trying to put everything on an equal playing field as far as like, hey, if you enjoyed these old bounty hunter books from like the 1990s or whatever
Yeah.
they were produced, like, okay, cool, that's like your Star Wars. Before, like with the whole canon timeline, it was very much like, oh, that's not canon. It doesn't kind of matter. Like that story is not important because it's not canon. Like that's basically the mindset of a lot of the fans. And now maybe at least with having more Legend stuff produced at the same time, they're like, okay, like Lucasfilm is still like does obviously care. They've always cared about these stories, but now we can evidently see from their point of view that yeah, these are still important stories that we're hoping that fans will enjoy, regardless if it's part of the continuity or not.
Oh yeah, I mean, like that is like the positive point about all that. Like, don't get me wrong, that was a negative rant, but when it comes to that specifically, like, yeah, it's great. To me, it's great. They're like bringing stories like that to the forefront. Like they're releasing like the Legends like bundles type of things, like a few books here and there every month. But to me, it's just like I don't know. Like it makes me question, like as a consumer personally, like it's like is or even if I was like reading all of the canon material, like from your point of view, Chris, like here's the hard question, like from your point of view, like is that dampening your canon experiences? Like so like you've been covering the past few years, all of the canon material, like the comics, the books, etc. Is that, with them releasing a lot of non-canon material, like the Legends books, like KOTOR coming up, etc., is that dampening like your feeling of how you feel about current canon, like the stuff that you are reading or going to be reading, like that is in the canon realm?
Not at all. I'll tell you why. Because the reason why is because Legends was stuff that wasn't being actively produced. So in my mind, as they're making all the canon stuff, I wanted to be focused on that because I didn't want to be going back and reading stuff from the time that the storylines might not ever finish, right? Like a lot of the storylines, people want to finish the expanded universe because they just
Yeah.
kind of stopped. So it's like watching a TV show that that got cut short for a return for season 2. It's like, why would I watch season 1 of a show that got cut? You know what I mean? I don't want to like get
Yeah.
excited for the characters and just be let down because I'll never be able to finish a story. So from that regard, there was only one thing to read for me going forward. The only thing that was logical going forward was be like, let's read the current Star Wars storyline. It's easy to stay engaged because I know that everything coming out now is going to be part of that continuity. So it's now's the time to really be engaged when I can start out in 2014 and just go forward. But not only that, I've actually been enjoying a Legend story. The only Legend story that has been ongoing since 2014 is the shirt I'm wearing right now, and that's the Old Republic. It's the only Legends material that they've been actively producing. So from that point of view, hey, I've been doing fine because I'm over here enjoying the Old Republic. Every update that comes out, I'm jumping on day it comes out, enjoying the story of the Darth Malik's return and all this stuff of the Sith Empire and all these different factions. So I'm perfectly fine with juggling that. It's just for me it's going to be a little bit more difficult because for me it's been pretty easy to keep things tracked as far as like where's this character, where's that character. Now what can right now it's fine because if we're dealing with characters
Yeah.
back 4,000 years in the past, it's so far separated than the current storyline that like whatever, like I can keep that separated. But if we start getting like legend stories that are told during the sequel trilogy, that are new stories in the Legends universe that are telling the stories of like Luke Skywalker, like after he would have been alive in like Last Jedi or something like that, I don't know if they would ever do that. You know what I mean? I don't think Disney would ever go
Yeah.
that far, but they might tell stories 4,000 years in the past or 70,000 years in the future because there's not any current stories in the continuity going on. So I can keep track when it's like segmented that way.
Oh yeah, I mean that makes total sense. And also, I mean, like I said, I may sound very negative about a lot of this canon stuff, but I mean to put it nicely, but on a good note of it, on a good point, I think the main good that comes out of, like, obviously everyone's all hyped for KOTOR, like that's a given, but I think that also a big takeaway is I think they are going to see the positive response from KOTOR, and as well as like the Legends books that have been released and things like that. like I've always been in the thought of, unless we have a direct story like Jedi Fallen Order, for example, unless we have a direct story in the timeline, like I think they need to start making a lot of the video games, like, like you said, either do them further away, or like they need to make a lot of the video games, I think, not canon, because I think when you make them canon, you get bootstrapped by like, oh man, we got to stick to this storyline or that storyline. Like look at Force Unleashed back in the day. That came out, and they like Lucasfilm pretty much just let them, that game just went crazy. Like, so or even like the Revenge of the Sith video game, like you get to choose, like you could kill Obi-Wan at the end of it. Like, so you have that type of stuff. Like, to me, I think they need to make some of the games not canon, just because it opens up your storytelling so much more. Yeah. Because, like my critique of like current canon, the way a lot of the books or just not even the books, not the content of the books themselves specifically, my problem with the structure of canon right now is just like, that I feel just from an outsider's perspective, it seems like, creators, like authors, can't go in and just make a story about Rey, Finn, and Poe, because Lucasfilm's just like, nope, we gotta hold the story because we may use them eventually in live action sense. Like, I feel like a lot of the stories are almost like getting bootstrapped because, it's almost like from a Disney or Lucasfilm perspective, it's like, hey, do we want to greenlight these books, or do we want to hold the characters back and not have them, just crank out 10 books with Rey? Like, don't get me wrong, I would be the first one in line. Like, if they did a 10-book series of Rey rebuilding the Jedi Order or something like that, I'd be the first one in line to start reading those books. But I feel like we will never get those books potentially, just because that's a storyline or something where it's like, hey, we might use that eventually, so we're not going to let an author write a story of that, So like, that's my concern when it comes to like the books and overall storytelling. But again, like I said, it's like if they start making some video games here and there not canon, I think that's really good, because then it opens up the floodgates of like, hey, you can do whatever video game you want, or just if you want to make it canon, make it like roughly canon, like do a side story, like the like in the old Star Wars Battlefront 2 game, the campaign of that game, you were playing as just a lowly clone trooper working his way up through like the 501st, basically. Like, that was it. So like it basically didn't really matter with canon, but it still was kind of canon. So like if you make stories that are kind of like halfway canon, I think that can work too, like in the video game sense.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great point there, Ben, because we've had a couple reports of the games that got canceled, which were actually basically the same thing you pointed out, right? If they're canon, like the one game that was made by Visceral Studios, which got shuttered because of their game got canceled, the whole studio, they lost their jobs because they got shut down by EA. And it was this whole part of the thing was like this whole frustrating going back and forth between Lucasfilm and the game developers. And the game developers just couldn't have like that freedom to just go and create. Like, every step of the way, they would have to check with Lucasfilm and be like, hey, does this crate have the right Arabesque phrase on it?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. Okay, you got to go back and redo it. And so it was like constantly going back and forth. And like I've heard basically that game got canceled for that reason. That could be one of the reasons. And then they transferred the assets from that game to the Vancouver studio of EA, and then that got shut down, probably for a similar reason. So I think you have a point there, especially with this open world game, right? These open world games, they give the player a lot of flexibility. Now that KOTOR's Legends, I wouldn't be surprised if this open world game made by massive studios, the same studio that's making the Avatar game, becomes quote unquote like a Legends, or not even Legends, but just like not canon. Because I think they name like Legends stuff like the stuff that was already made. So like Visions is not made yet, so they're calling it like an alternate timeline or something. They have to come up with another terminology.
It'd be like their Elseworlds.
Yeah, there you go. We got to come up with another name of the upcoming Star Wars stuff that's not canon. Mythos or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
You want to chime in on any of this, Milton?
I say, Milton, what do you think? Me and Chris have been talking.
Listen, look, I mean, because you guys are bigger gamers than me, like I said, so that makes sense. I mean, honestly, I think the thing you pointed out about the maybe the Lucasfilm brass is backpedaling a little bit too much on this and just giving us, things on that. I've said it before, how Kathleen tried to tell us there wasn't enough material out there to
Oh, I
blah blah
forgot
blah blah
about
blah.
that.
And it's like, wait a minute, like the books, the games, it's all there. Um, and maybe this is their way of saying, hey, we're trying to give you quote unquote new content, but that's still familiar, but in a different way of doing it. I mean, I don't know. Honestly, like again, I'm fine if they want to give us material like this that's non-canon. Come out and say it from day one. Don't play with our heads. Don't try to put hope in our heads about, hey, we may then cherry pick. Because I think Chris, you mentioned that maybe they're going to canonize bits and pieces of it.
Mm-hmm.
Either you're going to canonize it or not. Because if again, don't give me false hope that you're going to then try to take elements of the Knights of the Old Republic, which we all still want. We want a series or a movie, and you say, we're going to cherry pick from that. No, give it all to us or none. Because you're going to have a lot of fans who are going to be very up and down about it. They're going to be very divisive about it. And it's like, make a decision. Again, I'm happy that we're getting this game, but at the same time, it's like, don't play with our emotions like that. Especially Star Wars fans, we're so immature. We can't handle ourselves when we're all jacked up like that. So I'm just being real. Like we're idiots sometimes, but at the same time, like I love the idea that if you're going to make these games or remaster them or tweak them, let us know where they stand when it comes to non-canon or canon. Because just be clear about that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that really is what it comes down to. But regardless, if it's Legends, if it's canon, this is one of my favorite games of all time, period. And the fact that we're getting this thing remade after rumors and me not believing in rumors at all just gets me so excited. It gets me so happy to be back in like that golden age of video games, hopefully, because now we're gonna start to see this. And it's worth noting that this is early in development. I would love to see this come out on like the 20th anniversary of Knights of the Republic, because that came out in 2003. I think if they've
Mhm.
already been on this, again, they're building this game from the ground up, so it's going to at least take 3 years. So let's say they've been working on it for several months already. I think it's still possible, but then again, we're in a COVID world where they're doing remote developing, which is even more cumbersome than usual, obviously. So let's hope for 2023. I think now we're getting even more of an outline. I think somebody said earlier on in chat if this would come out before the open world game. That's a really good question because open world games require so much work, but the fact that we got a trailer for this before that makes me to believe that this might actually come out before that. But like looking at the pipeline, we have Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga. That's definitely coming out, hopefully definitely in spring 2022. So
Hopefully.
that will be the game for next year. Then 2023, I think, or maybe even at the end of 2022, we could see the Jedi Fallen Order sequel.
Mhm.
2023, this Knights of the Republic remake, and then 2024, probably the open world Star Wars game.
Right.
Or we might get two Star Wars games in 1 year at this point. I don't know.
Yeah. I would love
Well,
for them to actually do a because I mean they're gonna do like I said the Fallen Order sequel, which I think there was an article that came out about maybe like that might be like a tie into incorporating, speaking of Legends, incorporating like the Force Unleashed characters or something.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I've read something about that. I'm thinking like, yeah, that'd be cool, but it's like you're gonna confuse people that aren't normal Star Wars fans. Like we would understand what they're trying to do, but it's that, and that's where my issue comes in. Is like, okay, you said all that was Legends. Why are you taking Galen Merrick, Star Killer, and bringing him into that story? Like that's going to upset a lot of people because people love that character. People love those books. They love the games. It's
well,
like,
Milton, even to throw out there as well. I mean, they picked Thrawn right out of Legends. Like,
yeah,
it's
Yeah.
like, wait, you know,
no, you're right, right?
like,
And that's the thing, because that's what she said. Now, this is prior to all what's going on now. When they took over, they said everything's Legends. However, we're going to take the best of that and adapt it into canon. And we were all excited for that because at first people were upset about, oh, you're getting rid of those stories. But then it's like, okay, if you're taking the best of it, great. Then I will be happy with it. And then Kathleen and her team was like, oh, we're not Marvel and DC. We don't have the material for that. Are you serious? Again, does you see where the confusion's at? and the inconsistency is like, come on, like you got it
Yeah,
there.
her famous quote was, "We don't have source material."
Yes.
So, but
and you have
on that,
Chris is wearing the T-shirt right now.
Yeah, I mean that looks like source material to me.
It looks like it to me.
But unfortunately, Chris, I'm not sure if we'll get it in 2003, because if you look, like the Avatar open world game is expected to be released November, December of 2022, and that's, of course, that's the same studio and stuff working on
open world
the open world Star Wars game. So presumably, like all this coming year, they'll be advertising the Avatar game. That'll be like their main like focus or whatever. Or so that'll be like their marketing. So maybe their developers throughout 2022 will be working on the open world Star Wars game. So maybe the open world game will be 2023 and then 2024 for this. And also another question as well, to throw to you, when is the next Star Wars celebration that's not the one coming up?
We don't know that. Sometimes they have it every other year. Sometimes it's every year. It's been like every year for the most part.
Yeah.
Before Chicago, I think it was in 2018.
Yeah, because I was thinking, if it's going to be like a 2-year skip, like if it'd be 2022 then 2024, I feel like for sure it would be 24, because whether it's this or the open world game, that will be like one of the big highlights of that panel, I feel like, or of that celebration. Whenever it is, whatever celebration it is, I feel like that game, both of these games actually will be major highlights. Like, they're not going to release both of them during the same year, of course. So, again, it just all falls in line with what's the schedule like, or how. I guess a lot of it really falls on, how far are they on the open world game, I guess, is really the big question.
I mean, I think the thing with the open world game, don't quote me on this, anybody, is I believe it's almost using the same technology as Avatar, because what happened was, like, Lucasfilm, like, seen some of the footage that they were working on, or Disney was actually looking at it and being, like, approving certain things, and they're like, this looks really good. Can we just use this to make a Star Wars game? And they're like,
yeah,
okay. So they have like a separate dev team working on the Star Wars game. So I think all the heavy lifting might kind of be done, at least with the engine that they're using, which is the same engine that they used for the Division, called Snowdrop Engine. So that work might be already done, and it might just be simply adapting assets and like certain gameplay loops to just like a Star Wars skin, maybe.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe that. Well, here's the thing as well. Because Rogue Squadron's Christmas of 2023, I believe. Right? Or is it 2024?
2023.
Okay. Yeah, so like they're going to have a game for 2023.
Yeah.
And what would be a bigger way, like Star Wars back in the movie theaters, like what would be a bigger way than releasing like one of these two games? Like, that could be huge. And I feel like, just thinking about it, I guess, in that way, to me, that I feel like they would do the open world one first, just because of the whole, of course we all know what KOTOR is and everything, but I feel like an open world Star Wars game would be more marketable to like the mass audience. So maybe they'll do the open world Star Wars game tied on to the Rogue Squadron movie, because I mean, a lot of this is just, I'm also assuming this is going to be during like the Mando era, like between the episode 6 to 7 era. I feel like is potentially where the open world game could fall. Mm-hmm. So maybe if it is, and also I'm still 100% in belief that I think Rogue Squadron is going to be pre-episode 7 sometime. I really do. I don't think it's going to be after episode 9. So like, I think if you do that, you could tie in like this Mando era game into Rogue Squadron, and then on top of all of that, Mando, depending on whatever season Mando's on or whatever Star Wars show, like, all of the marketing, will be around, because you'll be able to roll out a Star Wars game, a Disney series, plus the movie. Like, I feel like 2023, we could have some big hitters in the holiday season.
Or what could happen is they put this game out, it's Old Republic Remake, around the time that the the Acolyte comes out. We know the Acolyte is in like the High
Yep.
Republic era. What happens if like in the in like the lead up to, like, let's say you have a couple episodes of Acolyte out before the game comes out, and they make references to like Revan, because if it's about the Sith users, the Dark Force users, they're going to be talking about characters like Revan and stuff. So they're going to
Right.
sprinkle in some lore and be
Yep.
like, there was this one Sith, and his basically his apprentice or whatever went out into the under. His name was Malik and Revan, and then it was just like, and it's like, oh, that's
Yep.
the tie-in, because we know how much Star Wars loves tying things together. I mean, they were spending 6 months on the Marvel comics tying into like High Republic references before High Republic came out. So they love ramping up the promotion, even in their own stories themselves. So,
Well,
yeah.
I think you just answered. I think you literally just answered our question here. I bet you KOTOR is going to be tied to the Acolyte, and then the open world game will be to whatever movie or whether it be Rogue Squadron, whatever series it'll be. I bet you KOTOR is going to be tied to Acolyte. Now that you point that out, that's a great point.
There you go. So we could speculate until the sun comes up, but before the
Yep.
power goes out for a third time, I think it's a good time as any to kind of ramp things down for Outer Rim Transmission number 24. So it was definitely an eventful night, to say the least. I'm happy that we were able to get this thing off the ground and running multiple times. And so for the audio listeners, through the magic of editing, you'll not have to know about any of that stuff. But just know it was kind of frustrating. But anyway, so for those of you that are listening, you can go ahead and watch like the 3 separate videos if you wanted to find them, I guess, because that's how many there should be on there somewhere. You could actually see me showing off some of the cool books and stuff that I was showing off in the first video, I think that was, or the second one. But regardless of the fact, you can also listen to us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and wherever podcasts are found. Just search Outer Rim Transmission. We do go live every Friday at 9 o'clock Eastern on my YouTube channel at Starrapter. You can go ahead and check out so much new content. I have the reviews for the comics that came out this week. I even have a review to Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, an awesome Marvel movie. So yeah, you can go find the occasional movie reviews on there as well, and do subscribe. That way you'll be notified when we do go live. Do hit that bell notification icon. You can find Ben on Twitter at Real Ben Maynard. You can find Milton on Twitter at Milton Weber 7. And I'm sure these guys will be tweeting a lot about the NFL over the next couple or several weeks, I should say.
Mm-hmm. For
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
For sure.
So that is going to do it for me, for Milton, and for Ben. That was Outer Rim Transmission number 24, End Transmission. Oh, we got it done without the power